Hi everyone, welcome back to Land Cruiser Scotland. Tonight, something unusual. I've been invited to the launch of the Land Cruiser AT37. We're going to go to Western Toyota over near Edinburgh, and they have the first two in the UK. I'm going to make it my mission to climb under and inside these cars and find all the dirty little secrets about how they've managed to build the AT37. I have 35s on this one. Fitting them is a right pain in the neck. So I'm curious to see how Arctic Trucks have managed it and what other things that they've changed. Because the Arctic Trucks advantage is that they can keep on-road handling normal while still having a very capable off-road truck. And let's have a look at how they've built the AT37. Let me give you a really quick summary to save you some time. On the good side, the quality of the bodywork here is incredible. It truly is using 37-inch tyres. There's no body lift needed. It's got phenomenal suspension, which is three-way adjustable. That comes from R53. It looks like the increased clearance is somewhere in the region of 3 to 4 inches. The lowest point on the car now is the rear differential, and the rest of the car is very, very flat, and your 7 seats remain in place. On the bad side, there is some hand-builtness to the front arches now, which I'll show you later in the video, but that's it. Overall, this is a really impressive build. If you'd like, you can pause the screen here and do a bit more reading from the spec sheet that they provided. On a barrel, no less. Let's start off with the wheels. These are 17-inch heritage forged alloys, and they are dual valve, which I haven't seen before. There's one black cap, one red. The tyres are BF Goodrich 37 by 12.5 inches. They're light truck tyres, KO3 all-terrains, or optional KM3s for mud, and they're around £350 a piece. There was a standard Land Cruiser here too, which was on 265, 65, 18 tyres, which puts them at around 31.5 inches. So it was great to be able to compare a stock Land Cruiser to the Arctic truck. Interesting that Arctic actually have their own stamped tyres too. They had this one on display. This one was a 44-inch tyre, which I believe you can actually get fitted to a Hilux. Next is the suspension, which is from R53. This is serious motorsport Arctic and Dakar suspension. It's got hardened shafts, three-way adjustability, remote reservoirs. It has all the toys. The reservoirs are bracketed to the frame with 3D printed mounts, and they're secured with the fanciest Jubilee clips I have ever seen in my life. It looks like they're wrapped in heat shrink tubing of some sort, or perhaps some rubberized coating on the clips. The eagle-eyed among you will also notice that you could in theory raise this suspension even higher yourself because it's a coilover shock. The top of the shock is around 2 inches lower than the standard car, so there's actually more clearance in the engine bay as a result. That's a little bonus for anyone who is doing some work in the area around the upper control arm. However, I am a bit worried about the rear reservoirs getting blasted with mud and rocks and dust. They're quite unprotected at the back there, they don't have any shroud over them. That's probably something to watch out for if you're lucky enough to get one of these Arctic trucks. However, I do love the idea that everything is paint marked on the bolts and the adjusters. I'm definitely going to steal that idea. The brochure for the AT37 says that the frame's been reprofiled or re-engineered. Now I couldn't see much evidence of that. I don't see any cuts to the frame, I don't see any additional welding. I think in the front, I suspect there's probably been some cutting near the firewall to make clearance for the tyre swinging during cornering, but it doesn't seem too aggressive. There doesn't appear to be a lot of cutting needed, to be honest. The top of the wheel arches have had the standard liners removed. It's that sort of half plastic, half fibre liner. That's been removed. And I actually think that the top has been either pushed or hammered up to create more clearance. I approve. I approve of hammering. The standard hoses, the brake lines, the evaporator tubes, they're all in the same place in the rear. I don't see that any of them have been needed to change. The rear axle is definitely moved backwards, but I can't tell how that's been engineered. I think that's part of the secret of the on-road handling, is the longer wheelbase. There is a very clever solution to the rear drop links though for the anti-roll bar. There's a custom piece of steel added to the drop link bracket. It inserts inside and it allows the anti-roll bar link to be fitted lower to account for the lift, and it allows it to be flipped to the rear of the bracket instead of the front. It's very neatly done. It's a great idea. One minor thing is the panhard rod. I'm a bit of a panhard rod snob now, so maybe it's a little off level following the lift. I suspect you'll probably get some extra rear bump coming from that rod. A little I'm Keith bracket might sort that out. Your mileage may vary. I saw no changes to the body mounts or a body lift, in fact. I really expected to see a body lift. I suspect that was how Arctic were going to keep the suspension handling near stock but fit the larger tyres. And some Toyotas need some pretty wild body mount chops to fit large tyres. I think the FG Cruiser, for example, you've got to do some aggressive cutting. That doesn't appear to be the case here. And I got my face and my camera right inside the chassis to look at the engine mounts, and I hope you'll agree that they are unchanged. They are standard body mounts. Now, I used an incredibly scientific method to compare the height of the standard Land Cruiser and the Arctic, and Dave and I both agreed that it was about 3 to 4 inches higher. Now, from a 31.5 inch standard tyre up to a 37 would give about 2 3/4 inches of lift on the tyres alone, and the rest is a modest lift from that R53 suspension. The lowest point is the rear differential, and the rest is really flat. There's great ground clearance on the car. The steering rack and the links are completely standard. They obviously don't believe it's necessary to upgrade these, and I agree, based on my experience with the 35s. You might blow out the rack bushes every few years, the same as I do with my 100 series, but that's fine for me. That's the cost of entry. Also, I spotted here that the bump stops are completely standard. Some of you will know that I love working on Toyotas because a lot of the time you just need a 12mm or a 14mm bolt. The AT37 complicates things. There are now some Allen key bolts or some rivets added, or the occasional weird plastic clip. Most buyers aren't going to be working on their own car though, so I get that. It's just something that I noticed. It takes away some of the Toyota simplicity by needing even more tools to work on the car. Also, I'm not sure whether or not this has the Toyota 10-year warranty. I should ask them. The engine bay remains stock, apart from the external R53 reservoirs that are now in there, and the extra clearance at the upper control arm area that I mentioned earlier on. But modern engines really make my eye twitch. Like, there's not a lot of clearance to do anything there, not much space to work. And the other thing I observed is that there's a fair amount of sort of rusty spatter from where the angle grinding has been done. You can see lots of little metal flakes there from just where the cutting wheels have been used. Plenty of rusty dust has accumulated on the hoses and brackets and so on. I don't think that's a problem, it's just something that I spotted. The overall fit and finish of the car is amazing. The interior, the paint, the bodywork, the little Arctic trucks accents, world class. Of particular note is whoever is doing the body panel sealer at Arctic Trucks needs to be given a raise and have their talents celebrated, possibly even build a statue of some sort. The joins between the body panels and the fiberglass mouldings was a thing of beauty. I couldn't stop touching it. It was the same on the front bumper where there's an extension on the lower moulding. It's so perfectly smooth and flush that I thought it was a single piece of black ABS plastic. The final finish of the bodywork was very, very impressive indeed. However, you should know that there is not a scrap of underseal to be found on this car. You can probably see that from the video footage. This car is going to rust like a cruise ship. If you buy one, get it sealed as soon as humanly possible. Do not delay. These cars have only done like demonstration miles and testing miles, and some of them are already beginning to rust. Don't delay, the paint isn't thick enough. Get a proper undersealing done. A few last things here. The car keeps the standard headlights, which are really excellent. The commercial 250 has cheaper lights by comparison. You still retain your rear windows, again, unlike the commercial where they're blocked off for a cheaper tax rate here in the UK. And also your 7 seats from the standard Land Cruiser are still in place, and they are electric folding, which is really fancy. I found these very impressive. And there's no tailgate, as you probably know already, and it's pretty awful to sit on the boot at this increased height. It's somehow been made even worse, but again, hey, you're going to put 37-inch tyres on a car, This is one of the things that you're going to have to deal with. Getting in and out is hard. Now, the minor stuff I said about rust and the lack of undersealing, that's a problem for every Land Cruiser. There's so many nooks and crannies on there, they're all going to get rust. That's not a unique problem, that just goes with the territory. Now, there are folks who say that an Arctic truck is just a lift kit and big tyres, and I can tell you now that those people are just wrong. I expected the fancy suspension and I expected the big tyres, but I didn't expect the cars to be overall such high quality in terms of the paint and the bodywork. I spent a lot of time around drift cars and track projects and so on, modified cars. And these are not the same thing. They are not like this. This is proper craftsmanship. Unlike this big bus, the 250 AT37, it really is rare metal. I've never seen an AT Land Cruiser before, and I'm glad I have now. There's a 200 series Arctic and a 150 conversion that they made a few years back, and I've never seen either of them in the flesh. I've seen the Hilux AT37, there's a few of those in the Glasgow area, and they're really magnificent to look at, they're brilliant. At over £116,000, I can't afford this level of luxury. I understand why it's so expensive. I mean, the base car is over £80,000 now. And I don't have a problem with that price for those who can afford it. Well done, enjoy it. If you've got the money, go spend it and feel good about it. The last thing I mention is just about Western Toyota. They've got a bunch of branches here in Scotland, and I get my Corolla serviced there. I said my Corolla, it's not here. My wife's got it. So I get our family Corolla service there, and they're always super helpful. The launch for the Arctic felt like a really family-run event. The general manager, who I believe is called Simone, and her kids were there, and they were super helpful, handing out goodie bags, and their gran made some absolutely banging chocolate cakes, so we had a few of them. They were super helpful. Anytime I've visited Western Toyota, they've been super helpful. Despite having some nice ones, I'll probably never buy an Audi again, and part of the reason is because the dealership network is so toxic. Not the case at all with Toyota, and particularly with Western. And the Arctic team that we met also really lived up to expectation. Really friendly, really passionate about talking about the cars. What a friendly bunch. Love the truck. Glad I got to go and see it. So that's it. Thank you for watching, everyone. I hope you enjoyed the video. Stay safe, make good decisions if you can, and I'll see you next week. Bye.